Well, if you're tuning into this early before anyone else gets here, welcome. It's almost 6 o'clock on a Saturday. This morning we were reading in the beloved letter that Paul wrote to the Roman saints. And oh my goodness, we got to verse 25 of chapter 4. Such a beautiful passage of scripture. Absolutely beautiful. But you won't hear it quoted in Sunday morning church sermons at the Vineyard or Calvary Chapel. Oh man, it's just totally ignored in the Pentecostal and the Baptist churches. And I'll tell you why. It's because it says something so lovely, far beyond anything that we could imagine. It says that Christ was given up because of our offenses, and guess what? He was roused from the dead because of our justifying. Just love that. So our justifying is already a sealed deal with God. Let me turn this down a little bit. See if that makes the noise and the vibration less obstinate. Oh yeah, let me invite you in. Even if you're the first one to chat with me, because this is just an open chat. Anything you want to talk about, maybe I'll put up with it. Maybe I'll let you talk just by yourself. But here's something. Here's a thought. Paul said, I was not sent to baptize. Would you ever hear that verse bragged about in the Baptist church? I was not sent to baptize. They put so much importance on baptism, and the Catholics do too. And the Pentecostals, and everybody loves to take people out to the river, out to the water, into the baptismal, and baptize them. Why would Paul brag and say I was not sent to baptize? Hello, Mr. DB. You're a good egg. Why would Paul brag and say I was not sent to baptize? Would a Baptist preacher brag and say I was not sent to baptize? Here I am in the Baptist church, and I'm the district manager of all the Baptist churches in this region, and I was not sent to baptize. Something is going on in the Evangel of Grace that most people have no clue about. You are a good egg, and you are a little cracked. I don't mind. You remind me of me. There's your invitation. Want to come in? It's just you and me, so nobody will harass you with theology. We can just talk about eggs. But until you come in, I can prattle on about whatever I want. Because, even Ralph Waldo Emerson said, two people alone in a conversation, there is much honesty. And he said, at the entrance of a third, hypocrisy begins. I'm betting that you're familiar with Ralph Waldo Emerson, because you're a reader. At one time, I was quite fascinated with him. And now I look at his stuff and I think he's a little cracked. We are easy eggs. We are over easy eggs. Baptism in several cultures, in some it represents amniotic fluid from which one is reborn. Well, isn't that a hell of a thing? I wonder what the baptism of John was all about. I don't know. It was a big deal to the Jews in the book of Acts, all the way through the book of Acts. The baptism of John was a big deal. Thoreau was somewhat of a fraud, but he had some good ideas. He was somewhat of a fraud. He wrote that book called, what, On Golden Pond or something like that? On Walden Pond? What was it? And pretended that he was living so far out in the wilderness, but he was just a couple of miles from town. He didn't suffer much while he was sitting there in that so-called wilderness, more like a park just down the road. He wasn't suffering. But yeah, that's I get what you mean, that he seemed to be somewhat of a fraud. I got that idea. His ideas, Thoreau's ideas, were kind of religious in their loftiness, kind of self-righteous in their loftiness. And he, I think, was actually taking advantage of the conveniences of town, since it was so close, like friends and food and wine, women, and song, as I understand the story. Next, baptism in Judaism was a form of ritual cleansing and is a rebirth into the tradition requirement of conversion in some Jewish denominations. Is that so? Is that what the baptism of John was about? If you can help me understand this, DB, why it's such a big thing in the Jewish culture, then maybe I can understand why Paul was bragging, I was not sent to baptize. On Walden Pond, that was it. On Walden Pond was about a cottage he stayed at for a couple of weeks. Yeah, one time I was all about the transcendentalist Emerson and Thoreau and their ilk. But you know what I've concluded over the years? That those guys were part of the Puritan mentality that came out of England into New England. They were New England bred, and they couldn't help it. They couldn't help it. They got this Puritan mentality, and they dressed it up. It seems to me, when I was on about them, they dressed it up to sound so marvelous, wonderful, spiritual, mystical. You couldn't quite put your finger on it, but now that I've personally put some distance between myself and Emerson and his crew, they seem to be religious, self-righteous, meddlesome, and you can see a great deal of their should-ism in the development of the war against the South, the war against Southern secession. You could see a great deal of their mentality, blended into the Prohibition days. Self-righteous and meddlesome. That's what from a distance, from my years gone by. Emerson said that when you're in the middle of a cloud, it's cold and wet and uncomfortable. But the further away a cloud gets, the more beautiful it looks. He said something like that. And the further away I got from Emerson and Thoreau, the more they looked like just a spin-off of religious tripe. I'm just thinking out loud, sorry. Once again, here's your invitation to come on in and steer the conversation away from Emerson. What do we have? Hi, brother.
Hey, Ace.
Nice to see you.
Indeed.
The Gentiles did not use Jewish rituals, is maybe why Paul mentioned it. John would have been baptizing for repentance and ritual purity. Jewish quote-unquote salvation, wash your sins away kind of thing. Yeah, maybe so. DB says hi to you.
Hello, DB. Ace, you ever think about what we're going to do when we get to the celestial realms? How we're going to run things?
Say that again.
You ever think about what we're going to do when we get to the celestial realms?
Not much. Why?
I do. I put a lot of stuff into this.
Yeah.
What's the word? I've been into politics since I was a kid. So I've always been thinking about how I would run society if I was in charge.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Would you run it like the New Englanders run our society? With a lot of rules and finger pointing. Yeah.
Not really. But here's the thing, Ace. You got to think in new paradigms, new ways of thought.
Okay, help me out here.
Think about this. I remember in one verse in Ephesians, it talks about how we'll be receiving the mind of Christ or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, have you ever stopped to think about that? Well, the mind of Christ, what that is.
I've read the passage and it went right over my head. I haven't spent any quality time looking at and thinking about what exactly is the mind of Christ. So you got one on me. Go ahead and
Ace, either you're breaking up or I'm breaking up. I don't know.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. So I was thinking, think about this. Jesus made everyone, right? That's just one dude, right? One dude made everyone. Jesus made everyone. Think about this. You have the mind of Christ. It's just an inference. But what if you were, at that intelligence level? If you were intelligent enough at Jesus' level, that would be a radically different change, mate. Think about that. Being as intelligent as the being who invented everything. Being at that level.
Wow.
That's a whole new paradigm. Also, what's the word? How do I put this? God is watching everyone all at once. Or at least I'm assuming God's watching everyone all at once.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. Well, if you have the mind of Christ, would you be able to do that?
Would I be able to do that? I don't know.
Yeah,
I guess so.
If you had the mind of Christ, if you had it, could you do it? Would it be possible?
I guess it could be possible, yeah.
Think about this. In China, they spend all this money and they have put all this energy into watching everyone at all times. Watching everyone and everything at all times.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, what if you could just do that naturally, by yourself? One dude.
Wow.
What if you could keep your eyes on everyone and everything in your society? Or your allotment, whatever it is, exactly. That's a radically different, mode of being. I guess you would say.
Yeah, it would require a different mindset because one of the thoughts that comes to me is why bother? I'm not that interested in everyone.
Well, I am. I am. I am that interested in everyone. Ugh. How do I put this? One of the problems with this planet is our government just doesn't care, or
That's for
at least
sure.
I'm assuming they just don't care.
Uh-huh.
It's extreme levels of nepotism. Fuck you, I got mine. That's their motto. You
Hmm.
know, in this government. Hey, I got mine. Buzz off. Whatever. You know, but if you knew everyone, or if you're watching everyone at once, you know, I put this, it would be impossible to not care for like that. Out of sight, out of mind. But if you can see all
Yeah,
things at once, everything is in mind.
it would require a different way of viewing things. So
Pretty
you would
much.
have to care because you're watching it. Yeah, I've noticed that whenever I find a new television program to watch, I've noticed that you got to watch it for at least 3 hours to get to know the characters, to know what to expect, so that you'll know when you are surprised. Because if you just do channel surfing, right, and you only give them 10 seconds, you don't get hooked. It takes watching a couple of episodes to get to know what you're actually looking for, and then you happen to like them. You get addicted because you spent some time getting addicted. So I think that's what you're saying, that if you're watching everybody all at once, you'll be fascinated with their antics.
I
But
guess, as I said,
I'm inclined to say I'm old enough to say that I have seen all 8 personality types, if there are that few. And so I'm not that impressed with anybody. There's it, to a great degree, I'm just a grumpy old man bored to hell with most people. So
Ace, you gotta think big. You gotta think bigger. You're thinking so small, Ace.
you're
You're
right.
thinking,
You're right.
you're thinking
Can you
so
find it in your heart
so
to forgive
small.
me?
You know, what's the word? Me, I put tons of thoughts into this. What's the word? Many days. How to put this? I've been listening to politics since I was a young kid. Instead of getting an iPod back in the day, they had those music players you used to listen to. I didn't get an iPod. I got a radio. So I'll
Yeah.
just turn the radio to talk radio and just listen to politics 3 or 4 hours a day.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. What's the word? That changes someone. Actually, that's one of the worst things you could ever do to a kid. Give them a talk radio. Let them listen
Rush
to
Limbaugh,
politics.
Rush
Yeah,
Limbaugh, G.
I
Gordon
was,
Liddy,
I was listening to Glenn Beck and
Glenn Beck, right? Yeah.
what's the word? Michael Savage.
Oh yeah, Michael Savage. He's
Before they
entertaining.
took him off the air. What's
Have
the
they
word?
taken him up there now?
They took him off like at least a decade ago where I live.
Oh man, that shows you how out of touch I am with it all.
Pretty much. What's the word? Rusty
One,
Humphreys.
yeah, yeah. I've seen one or two of his episodes.
Anyway, I've read. What's the word? How do I put this? I try to read some books on economics. I got Thomas Sowell's I think it was Economics in One Lesson, or was it? I don't know.
No, that's a good
Uh,
book, Economics in One Lesson, but it was not written by Thomas
That's
Sowell.
not Thomas. That's not Thomas.
Yeah,
No. What was Thomas's book? I forget.
he's got
But
about
anyway,
30 of them. 30 of them, I think.
well, he had one on economics. Yeah, it was an audiobook on Audible. I was listening to it. But anyway, I think about this. You have your allotment.
Hmm.
Do you what would be think how to put this? Do they have banks in heaven? An interesting thought. Do they let bankers exist in heaven?
They're the most evil bunch of boys. No
They
wonder
really are.
Jesus
really
got
are.
in a fist fight with them at the temple, and they've been evil for a long time. A bunch of lying, deceitful, self righteous, haughty assholes. And they deserve any punishment they get. So if they don't go to heaven, then,
All right.
I wouldn't complain to God about that one.
But think about this. What is the economic system in heaven? Have you ever thought about that? I've thought about that.
Go ahead,
Well, all right.
elaborate some.
How do I put this? We know that Jesus is Lord, and the converse of a Lord is a slave, and we know that the Mosaic Law is not an exact one-to-one to heavenly law, but it's based, I would assume, on heavenly laws. So I'm assuming that some form of slavery would exist in heaven, some form, some way, in some form of what's the word? How do I put this? Labor. I don't know. Capitalism would exist in heaven, but that's just all speculation on my part.
Mm-hmm.
But anyhow, you know, what's the word? You know, think about this. When Jesus was alive, he multiplied the fishes and the loaves, right?
Right, yeah.
To feed the 5,000. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, was that creation ex nihilo or creation ex mach? What's the word? Ex materia.
I don't know. I don't know what those two words mean.
All right. All right. Ex nihilo means he created the extra fishes and the extra loaves of bread is what's the word, out of nothing. He had a base form and just basically copy and pasted, right?
Oh.
Okay, but ex materia would imply what's the word, that from the fishes and loaves he took other matter from the surrounding area and what's the word, transformed that matter into fishes and loaves. How I put this, was any new matter created when he did that, or was he just transforming existing matter from around the surrounding areas to do that?
Wow, you got me. Sounds like a question for a Western mind. From some guy who listens to too much talk radio. I'm
Anyway.
just teasing you, Alan. Go ahead.
Yeah, but that's a thought. Because what's the word? If there is some form of market and labor in heaven, then there must be, I assume, a currency of some sort. All right. Now think about that. If there is currency, can you print more currency? Is the currency inflationary or deflationary? Does God print more money, or does God let the money that it is exist? Think about it, mate.
Do I have to?
Well, you're going to be in charge. Ace.
Oh, yeah, I forgot.
You're going to be in charge. Sons of the king. You have to think about this stuff. And it's, what's the word? How do I put this? Like, yeah, this is my thoughts. I think capitalism is inherently dehumanizing. Think about this. Compare Walmart, right? And that's what capitalism produces. It produces Walmarts and malls. And then compare the 16th chapel to Walmart, right? That's what, when your architecture is built around maximizing profit and being efficient, you build Walmarts. When your architecture is based on glorifying God, you build cathedrals, right? You build the most grandiose buildings you can build. The most spectacular works you can imagine. That's what happens when your architecture is built around the focus of glorifying God rather than maximizing capital. Now think about this. How do I put this? Like right now, I've been watching conspiracy theory on YouTube.
Yeah.
And the conspiracy theory goes like this. We're living in some kind of dark ages. and something happened 200 to 300 years ago. We're not exactly sure what, but something must have happened that completely destroyed humanity. And the theory is that, well, you look at all this classical European architecture,
Yeah.
and then you look at the architecture we're building today, and there's
Uh-huh.
such a degrade
You're
between
right.
class.
Yeah.
There's a huge degrade, and not just in the architecture, but in the art and the music that was produced 200 or 300 years ago to now. That, how do I put this? That the conspiracy theorists are theorizing that, all right, we're in some hellish catastrophe, and
Mm-hmm.
something happened, 200 300 years ago, that completely destroyed our civilization, and we were just the inheritors of a previous ancient civilization, because we don't build the things that were built 200 300 years ago. You see these beautiful houses, what's the word, these beautiful buildings and whatnot. Something must have gone horribly wrong, and that we just have woken up to the society that we're in. But there's pretty much, yeah, exactly, St. Louis, Tataria.
Tataria. Is that what this stuff is called?
Well, it's a sub branch of the theory. Think about this. 300. There are, how do I put this? There are books that reference countries like Tataria, that none of our history books today mention. And Tataria was this huge, what's the word, country back in the day that all the old books mentioned, but none of the new books mentioned.
Hmm. So the suspicion is what?
The suspicion is like, well, we've devolved so much that what's the word, that we must, how to put this, be a part of an ancient. We lost our old ancient civilization. There's been some tabula rasa, some tomfoolery in the history books. I mean, Drew, you want to come on? Come on, let's talk.
Yeah. I don't know anything about this. I think I've heard that guy in Australia, bald-headed guy with the beard. I think I've heard him go on about this type of thing. Crow House, I think that's what he calls his channel, or before he got kicked off of YouTube. Talking about that our civilization could be just 300-400 years old because a lot of things don't add up. Now, I don't know what to make of that. I listened to it, but I didn't know. I didn't know anything.
But anyway,
So, but I'm willing to hear more.
Think about how much we're devolving, morally wise, architecturally we're devolving. What's the word? We're going. How do you put this? Straight to the bottom. Look at the clothes people wore 100 years ago, 200 years ago. It looks better than the clothes we're wearing today.
Right.
And we have more technology. We have better technology.
Supposedly we do, yeah.
What's the word? Look at the buildings we were building 200 years ago. And that's without all the modern labor and modern construction methods. And now, what are we building today? Walmarts and Costco. Yeah, it's a huge downgrade. How about this? Like, also today I learned something new. What's the word? In the history books in school, I remember learning about how the buffalo died out.
Yeah.
Right? But no one tells you why the buffalo died out.
Oh.
Do you know why the buffalo died out?
I would assume because the U.S. Army wanted to starve out the Indians.
Yes. But they left that part out of school, right? They left that part out. There was they talk about manifest destiny, and they talk about the buffalo starving out. They don't relate the two, right?
Yeah, because that's a definite form of warfare, is to starve out the Indians. I have some in my garden. I grow this real tall red plant that has a million seeds on the head of it, right? It's called an amaranth. And the backstory of the amaranth is that when Cortez went into Aztec land to steal their gold, Cortez and his boys, 10, 15 guys, they all had muskets in the And the Aztec had never seen muskets, right? Didn't know anything about it. So, in his effort to manipulate them and steal them, he did two amazing things, two big things anyway, that gave him a super duper advantage. He called, the king of the Aztecs together, and 1 million people were in the Aztec courtyard, and his boys, Cortez's boys, were up along the wall with their 10 guns. And they, at the right time, he ordered his men to shoot them and drop 10 Aztec people dead. And they had never seen guns. They didn't know what this was. Oh my God, they were so fearful. They all, 1 million of them, surrendered at once, right? He didn't get any fight out of them. And if they had known that it takes, 5 minutes to reload those damn things, they could have had Aztecs, Cortez's boys, in headlocks and, chopped off their heads in minutes. But they didn't know. They just surrendered because they hadn't seen this weapon before. It was magic that 10 people just dropped dead like that with a loud explosion. Anyway, the next thing Cortez did was, the Aztecs loved amaranth. They grew it. They had huge fields of it all over, and they would use the seed heads to make pancakes, and you can pop it like popcorn. Even though it's real tiny, it still pops up like popcorn. And they made little statues out of the pancake mix, and they would worship amaranth. In essence, they would worship these statues that they made out of amaranth. Well, and they ate it. It was a staple part of their diet. As I know, amaranth, it has about 15% protein, so it's a pretty good grain. He burnt all the amaranth fields 400 years ago, and it was thought for 400 years that amaranth was extinct. And in the 70s, somebody found an amaranth plant growing on the side of the road and brought it back into cultivation, and I have it, and I'm proudly growing it in my backyard. So I just think it's a really cool plant, especially when you know that backstory about amaranth and Cortez and the Aztec boys and girls. Oh, and if you want to know a follow-up to that, Cortez and these Spaniards brought so much gold back to Spain that it actually ruined their country. You were just talking about inflation or deflation. They brought so much gold back into Spain that it ruined the damn country, because everybody got the feeling that there was just a little too much gold floating around. So they started jacking up the price of eggs and shoes and cloaks and hats and everything else, to the point where it destroyed their economy. They had too much gold, so it produced a lack of productivity because there was so much gold floating around, and it crushed them economically, and it ruined them for about 400 years. They didn't recover from that situation for 400 years because they had too much gold. So yes, inflation can be a serious problem, as well as deflation is a different kind of serious problem. Anyway, go on.
Indeed. But anyway, so creation, ex materia, ex nihilo. Think about this. All right, if you have the mind of Christ, what kind of powers does a celestial being have? I have no clue, right? This is all inference. But think about this. If you have your allotment, do you have the power to create things with your mind? Just an idea, just a thought. If you do, then you can create cities or buildings with your mind or with your powers, whatever. Now, maybe that's needed, maybe that's not. But it's just a thought, mate. Just a thought. If you're, how to put this? If you're running your allotment, you would want everything to be beautiful, correct? Since on a technical level, it's some way, some form your property, or you're in charge of it. So, would you allow ugly buildings to exist in your allotment? I wouldn't, right?
Ugly buildings.
Yes, ugly buildings.
Mm-hmm.
Think about this. Walmart's, Costco's, horrifically ugly. Now, of course, there's a purpose for that, right? It's because it's supposed to be efficient and cheap, right? But why be efficient and cheap when you could be grand and spectacular?
Right.
Think about this. The efficiency has destroyed the society. As I said before, look at what people used to wear. How pretty it used to look, and now look at what people wear. It's a huge downgrade.
Right. Yeah, even in the 1920s and 30s during the Great Depression, they were always dressed as if they were looking for a job or ready to accept any opportunity that came their way. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Actually, I prefer the look of modern buildings to classical designs. Isn't that interesting?
Drew, you only have so much time to rule and reign. It's not an eternal society, it's only temporary. You only have so much time to make your mark on, well, the Celestials. How much, maybe 1,000, 2,000 years, and then your reign ends. How do I put this? Think big. Think big. You don't got forever. The clock is ticking.
Aren't you cute?
No, it's not. It's not being cute. It's, time is short. Even 2,000 years. If you're going to live forever, 2,000 years is short.
Right.
If you're going to, what's the word? If you're going to live forever, 2,000 years, that's a blip. Think about this. And I've been around long enough to see people rise and fall. Celebrities rise. They're famous for a while, and then they stop being famous. Right? I've seen various bands. They used to be number one, top of the charts, and now they're nothing.
Right.
Right. That's going to be us. Even us. Think about this. You only have 2,000 years, and 1,000, 2,000 years to rule and reign, and that's it. Handed the chips. Your stardom is only going to last 1,000, 2,000 years. Make it count. Make it work. How do I put this? Like, you have to be, what's the word? Only the best of the best artists are ever remembered, right? And usually they're only remembered for one or two things, right?
Like a missing ear.
Well, like, what's the word? Van Gogh is pretty much remembered for like one painting, Starry Night. What's the word? How do I put this? Beethoven, Mozart, they're remembered for a few songs each, a few songs each, and Bach, a few songs. We have their entire catalog, but people really only listen to a few songs, right? What's the word? Remember that that painting, that romanticist painting, where there's a guy standing on a cliff with a sword, looking off into the yonder. Or maybe you've seen it, maybe you haven't. But I'm pretty sure that's the only work that. Say again?
Yeah, I don't recall it.
All right. It's a famous romanticist painting, but again, that's pretty much that only dude's famous work of art. Rembrandt has like maybe 2 or 3 paintings everyone remembers. No one remembers the rest. They only remember the 2 or 3 paintings. What's the word? Leonardo has his Mona Lisa, and he has some other stuff, but people only really pay attention to the Mona Lisa. And I don't even see what's so good about the Mona Lisa. Yeah. Scott Echo, I wouldn't worry about it. Scott, you gotta think big to make it big. You gotta think. How do I put this? Yeah. Scott, come on. Come join us. Let's talk. Oh man. Yeah. Oh well. Like, think about this. What's the word? As a celestial being, do you have the ability to talk to more than one person at a time?
Oh?
Think about this. God can entertain prayers from 2 people at once.
Yeah.
You have the same ability.
I suppose so, yeah.
All right. So if you can entertain a conversation with 2 or more people at once, what's the difference between 2 and 2 billion? Just think about it.
Okay.
All right. If you think about this, imagine a government that talks to each one of its citizens every week or so. And imagine a government where you can complain directly to the guy in charge. right?
Mm-hmm.
And not just but everyone is talking to the guy in charge. Because think about this. You know, we know Congress doesn't give a damn, and Congress doesn't listen, right?
Uh-huh.
I want to make sure that's the exact opposite of my allotment. I want to make sure everyone knows they're being listened to. All right.
Hmm.
Yeah. Just as you and me are talking right now, I would imagine if I had the power to talk to multiple people at once, I would talk to everyone at least once a week to get their ideas. Think about this. How do I put this? Like, you see a pothole on the side of the road, right? And no one's going to listen to you, so you don't complain,
Right.
right? But imagine if you could complain straight to the king. The king could fix it, right? Same way, you know, if someone that wants has a pothole in heaven, I could fix it. It'd be done. You know, how to put this? I wouldn't call it democracy, monocracy. I don't know, something like that. But anyhow, just something to think about, Ace.
Uh-huh.
A government that actually cares. And not only is a government that actually cares, but actually listens.
Uh-huh.
Anyhow. Ugh. Now think about this.
Okay.
What is more glorious? Paying a lot of taxes or paying a little in taxes?
um, in order to pay a lot, you have to make a lot.
Well, as I said before, if you have the power to create things with your mind, why do you need taxes?
Right.
Imagine having a tax rate of 0%. How glorious that government would be. Just a thought, Ace. Just a thought.
Right.
Oh man. How glorious would the kingdom of heaven be? A kingdom with no taxes. Oh man. People would begging to come in.
You are funny.
Yeah. Oh man. Oh well. Anyhow, Ace, you have anything else you want to talk about?
Great art.
Great art. All right. Well, which artist do you want to talk about?
How about Waterhouse? That's one of my favorite paintings right there.
That's nice.
1908. Something, I think it's called The Soul of a Rose. Let's see if we can get it any bigger. Because you brought it up. Great art. So
Yeah, they don't make stuff like that anymore.
I know. Why?
The light of Christ is leaving the society. I always imagine. Perhaps it's that.
Great art.
Think about this. The closest thing you can, what's the word, come to classical music today is the music they use in movies, right?
Yeah.
No one makes classical music by itself. No one creates these huge symphonies by itself. It usually has to accompany, some blockbuster.
Man, look at that. Attention to detail. Makes you fall in love with redheads, huh? Look at that hand.
I guess.
You guess what? Look at that building. Spain? Santa Barbara? Mexico? Where is that?
Yeah, it does look Spanish.
Did you say Scott was in the room? Scott Echo?
Well, he commented,
Oh, I didn't see.
but he hasn't come on.
Oh yeah, I saw a comment there. There's your invitation. Anybody who wants to come in and challenge this Waterhouse painting? I wouldn't worry about it. Your reign will happen naturally because you have been fitted out and born perfectly for your position. So, in other words, Scott thinks you're going to have a hot time of reigning.
Oh well.
It's funny that we go down different roads because of our prior thinking. We try and fit it in with where we are at the moment. Looks like I missed a great chat. I was enjoying that study on Romans chapter 4. Oh my God, it was great. Romans chapter 4 is such a lovely verse, a lovely chapter, especially verse 25. Tell everybody you know about Romans 4:25. We were raised. No. Christ was raised because we were already justified. Guaranteed or your money back. I don't care how many girls you've dated, man, but you ain't lived. You've had your tires rotated by a redheaded woman.
All right, Ace.
Yeah.
Google World's Fair.
I know, 1908. It was hot stuff, huh?
Yeah, but just do it for a second.
Okay, let's see. How can I do this? Okay. We'll go over here. And nope, that's not it. I have to hang on until I find my way around my computer. World's Fair, huh? 1908 World's Fair?
Any of them, really.
Sorry, I'm just, can't get. Images?
Go to images, yes. Go to images.
Okay.
All right. What's the word? How do I put this? See the one with the statue in the middle? Click that one.
The statue in the middle. There's a lot of statues.
The black and white one.
Oh, this here? That?
Yeah, click it.
Okay.
Think about that. That's what
Chicago World's Fair, 1893.
Well, so we'll just scroll through the related content. This is what we used to live in.
Look at that. That's a hell of a building.
Well, never mind. Go back for a moment.
Okay, images. How about 1908?
I'm thinking 1893.
1893.
Yeah.
World's Fair. Ferris wheel. Check this out. Do those buildings exist still?
I doubt it. But that used to be what our society looked like.
Right. Man. So it doesn't look like we've progressed that much.
No, we've degressed much. We've degressed
Right.
horrifically.
If that was a building, that's a hell of a building. So my ancestors came over. They were the first colony from England to land in this continent, and it's called the Lost Colony. Long about 1490, they landed in Roanoke, North Carolina area, and they sent the ships back to England to get supplies. They were supposed to be gone just 3 months. But when the ships got back to England, there was a war going on. So, of course, the government absconded with the ships to help out the war effort. So they didn't come back for 3 years. By the time they got back, the colony at Roanoke Island was gone. And the only thing they found of the colony was a carving in the tree that said Powhatan, which was an Indian tribe 50 miles inland. And, of course, there's no roads. So they're not going to hike in the 50 miles inland to find this Powhatan to see what happened to the colony. So they just shrugged their shoulders and went back to England. And Virginia Dare was born at that time. She's the first little girl born on this continent from an English colony and settlement. And anyway, so they just shrugged their shoulders and wrote off the lost colony, the so-called lost colony. Well, 100 years later, 1590, they discovered a tribe of Indians deep in the woods of North Carolina that spoke English. And they had last names like Roberts and Oxendine. And they celebrated Christian holidays. And one can only assume that this was the lost colony that that had disappeared 100 years before. And my great-grandfather's last name was Oxendine, so that's how we get the idea that these guys were part of our ancestry. And this Indian tribe was called the Lumbee tribe. And they're kind of famous in North Carolina. They're not famous for causing trouble, but like Comanches were. But I think it's just fascinating that if my theory is right, that this colony blended with an Indian tribe, and they forgot most of their heritage. They forgot their schooling. They couldn't write, but they did have last names like Roberts and Oxendine. They did celebrate some Christian holidays, but they didn't remember their roots. They didn't pass on that tradition. And anyway, so.
Speaking of roots, so what's the word? In those conspiracy theories, I learned, did you know the Cherokee used to dress like, what's the word? Southerners back in the day?
Yeah.
Yeah, what's the word? And they lived in plantation houses.
Right, and they had slaves. Some of them had slaves. Yeah.
And they sued the federal government, for kicking them off their land. We have this imagination of the Cherokee as some backwater savage, off the hill, but no, they just blended right in. They wore the same colonial garb, and lived in those, plantation mansions. Those were 2,000 plus acres. Anyhow, I found that interesting.
Yeah, Indian culture in this country is, there's a lot of ignorance about things, all things Indian, and some of them were savages, but some of them were very civilized. And the Indians in Florida, the Seminole tribe, never were defeated by the U.S. government. They just disappeared into the swamplands, and they never signed a treaty and never surrendered their freedom and never were brought in. I thought that was interesting. You can only conquer those people you can find. And if there's too many alligators and snakes, just don't bother. Hello, Jeremy.
Hey.
This is an open chat. It's up to you, baby, to make it happen.
I'm sorry, I was editing my avatar, trying to cut down the bandwidth. How you doing?
Fine.
Trying to catch the tail end of your picture and what you're talking about.
Well, you were just talking about the de-evolution of society.
Oh, if that's true, that society is devolving, then the movie Idiocracy is actually a documentary.
Oh, I have it. You know, I actually have lots of research into this. It's kind of one of those side things that is not so important, but I really believe there is a lot, especially with Tesla, when you look into him, a lot of evidence that would prove that, like, the pyramids and all of that technology was clean energy. I believe they actually, you can go up there now with a bottle. You can go look at YouTube videos and people take bottles up there, and there's so much gathered static electricity from, you know, what's left of it, the rubble. You can imagine, they just said, you can imagine how much electricity was generated by the
Take
tile.
bottles up where? Take bottles up where?
On top of the pyramids. They've snuck up there and they'll hold a bottle and it will illuminate because of the electricity. And so there's a lot of evidence, and you'll see that there was light bulbs in the paintings, you know, down in the pyramid where there's no light, just torches. And they would have, like, it looked like gigantic eggplants. And then those were ran back to jars full of vinegar and lead that would generate enough electricity, you know, to light up, to illuminate that giant bulb that you see the Egyptians holding as they're working down in the tunnels. So I think there's a lot of evidence that would say that actually a lot of the technology and abilities of using nature and the elements, static electricity, Tesla would light up a light bulb around his antenna in New York at the State Fair and get electricity from it and fly planes, you know, remote control planes on the electricity from that orb that was gathering static electricity from the air and from the turbine at the river where he was located. And he was located in one of the very unique geometrical locations. He decided to have his little plant on an exact spot to where the longitude and latitude comes together, and it's the highest magnetic yield. And there's several spots around the world, and there's key infrastructure built on those spots. Anyways, so I do think it's devolving and it's been hidden, and now we pay for dirty energy.
So what you're saying is there is a lot we don't know.
I think so. They can't figure out how those gigantic structures, those columns were moved, you know, in, I forget where it is, but a lot of people say that's where Cain, you know, went into that land. They don't have any idea. They have no equipment, none, that could lift, or any way to even engineer a way to lift those columns that have fallen.
Speaking of the ancient world, has anyone here tried to read the Book of Jasher?
I have.
All right. Do you remember that part where it talks about the women drinking the potions to not get pregnant?
Now, as far as the detail like that, I am ignorant. So I read that along with a bunch of other books like that, and Enoch, when we were all, you know, on this quest of figuring out who the giants were and all of that good stuff. So I am familiar with it.
All right. So in the Book of Jasher, it talks about, I think either it was post Noah or before Noah, that the women, they used to drink these potions to not get pregnant, because if they would get pregnant, they would ruin their figures, right? You know, they wanted to retain their beauty. Now think about that. That's 4,000, 5,000 years ago, something like that. And that's not something that would come out of today. You know, You know, back then they used to drink their potions. Today they take what's the word? Pregnancy pills.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Nothing new under the sun, baby.
nothing new under this. Exactly. You know, exactly. You know what? I don't want to get pregnant. You know, if you get pregnant, you get fat. That was the whole. You know, that was a huge problem back in those
Oh
days.
my gosh, I've already picked up a couple of Ace Theo's little innuendos and little sayings.
Uh-oh.
I just, baby. Uh-oh.
I guess it was pretty much the same thing as today, Scott. An hourglass figure.
I'm not
Wide.
into that thin anorexic. I've never understood the thin anorexic type look. It just like they're dying.
You like the Marilyn Monroe bulkiness, huh?
A little bit of that, you know? Yeah. I mean, I just don't think it looks healthy to be all starved out, you know? It looks like you're really desperate for your job, too.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I actually like the bony look. But anyhow, let's see. What else is there to talk about? So,
Oh, that's hilarious. Are you married? Are you married?
not at all. Not at all.
Oh, man. It gets kind of trivial after you've been married.
I would imagine it would get trivial.
A little. I mean, less sensitive. The fact of life.
You know, the second they get married, they all put on the pounds. Everyone knows this. This is a fact of life. Anyhow,
It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing, though, when you and your wife do realize that, and you do realize, well, hopefully you'd realize that you have something that is far more valuable than, you know, any coated or adorned flesh, you know, no matter. That's the hope. It's a good thing.
you know, it's how do I put this? We're all born dying. We're all born dying. The second you're
Yeah.
born, you're pretty much on the you're not pretty much you are on the road to death. You know, the second you were born, the second you start to rot. If you think
And you know what?
about
I
it,
think the sooner you can really, and not in a morbid way, but in a really, I don't know, just a matter of fact and happy go lucky even way. I just had a umbrella blow over. Is to let your kids know about that hey, you know, you're dying. Everyone's dying, and I think that really helps you. Yeah, I'm okay. It really helps you live every day, you know, to where you don't take things as for granted.
Mm-hmm.
you know, as I said before, the only reason why I think about that now is because I actually believe in death. I actually believe death is real. You know, 25 years in Christian religion, and I never believed death was real until now.
I'm
Yeah,
back.
You're back.
back. Yeah, it's real. But you know what? When you close your eye, your reality though is when you close your eyes. I mean, as soon as you can die, your perspective is you're alive. That fast. You
Yeah,
remember when you
but
were a kid? Do you remember? Have you ever done this where you wanted to go like to the you knew you were going to the amusement park or to the beach or wherever it was, the big trip, and the night before you willed yourself to go to sleep early because you knew that if you just could fall asleep instantaneously, you would be in that day that you're looking forward to. Have you
oh
ever done
sure,
that?
sure, but at the same time, you know, the thought of well, how many years I'm going to be dead, you know,
But
that's
didn't it happen? But didn't it? Did
it.
it happen? But I'm saying, did it happen? I mean, I
Yeah,
remember doing that, and I was like, so it was like, hey, my plan worked. I'm here. Yeah. Now it doesn't always happen. Sometimes I really succumb to the whole, you know, can't go to sleep, insomnia, dreading tomorrow, or trying to get everything done before it comes. And man, I don't think it's going to be a big deal. And you weren't designed to go through those years that you're going to be asleep in. Nothing is there for you to do. There's no events planned for you.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I'm right now. I'm putting my hope in the rapture. That's what I'm putting my hope in. Yeah. And what's the word? Hopefully sooner than later. What's the word? Like hopefully in 2 or 3 months. Yeah. I wrote something down about that. Let's see. All right. So some important anniversaries are coming up that could have prophetic significance. 2028 will be the 2,000-year anniversary of the start of Jesus' earthly ministry. 2030 will be the 2,000-year anniversary of his crucifixion. Others say it's 2033. That's the latest date, by the way. The latest date I've seen for the crucifixion is 2033. Jesus died 4,000 years from Adam, 4 days. 2 more days equals 6 days. 7th day is the Sabbath, millennial kingdom. 6 days of work, and the 7th day you rest. On 2030, we will done 6 days of work. 2030 will be 6,000 years from Adam. If God decides to send Jesus in 2030, then Jesus will be returning 2 days later. A day with the Lord is like 1,000 years. 2 Peter chapter 3, verse 8. Yeah. Also, there's a prophecy in Hosea chapter 6, verse 2. After 2 days, he'll revive us. On the 3rd day, he'll raise us up that we may live in his sight. See also Joshua 3:4. The ark could perhaps prophetically symbolize Jesus. Now, perhaps Jesus will return in 2027 to 2028. 2027, 2028 is when the next Jubilee will begin. Jubilee is from fall to fall. So this will be the 40th Jubilee since Jesus. The Israelites were 40 years in the desert, so maybe 2033. I could be wrong. Some people say Jesus died in 33 AD. Now, if he returns in 2028 and there's a 7-year tribulation, then we should start seeing the Antichrist in 2021. If it's 2030, then in 2023, and if he comes back in 2033, then we should see the 7-year tribulation start in 2026. Moses led the Israelites 40 years in the deserts before reaching the promised land. Jesus perhaps, waits 40 Jubilee years until, he comes back to take Israelites into the promised land. Moses was delayed 40 days to 40 years because of the Hebrews' unbelief. Jesus was delayed from 40 years, 40 years the destruction of Jerusalem happened, to 40 Jubilees due to the unbelief in Israel. Perhaps 40 years later, after the cross, the temple was destroyed because of Jesus rejected Jesus. Just a guess. What the hell is that supposed to mean, Scott? This is hopeful. This is some of the best hopeful news in the universe.
But wait, I think though what you're saying though, be careful, because if your heart is crying out to God and hoping for this, the best thing that could happen for you is to get hit by a bus, because you would just get pushed right there, because you get resurrected first. See, when that rapture happens, and then you skip all this drama and all the bad stuff that's going to come leading up to the 3 years of good stuff.
How do I put this? Think about, look at the world right now. Just look at the world right now, mate. Doesn't it not seem like things are converging? What's the word? Like Martin had a
definitely. I'm with you.
Martin had a video, about the mark of the beast. Well, think about this. They're already saying, "Oh, if you don't get this vaccine or whatever, we're gonna take away your job and you won't be able to go anywhere," and all this other stuff. Stuff seems to be converging, mate. Maybe not. Who knows? I could be wrong.
Now, what about this angle though? But think about this. Even let's say that You're right, because I do believe there is lots of creepy things that would really lend itself to one having a tendency to say, hey, are these things coming upon us? But also remember, you have a huge audience of brainwashed Christians, right? They are a part of the base that they're trying to control. You also have a lot of people following that may or may not even go to church, but they will follow these religious leaders. And if these leaders are wrong about some of how these things are supposed to happen, they've been declaring what they do believe is going to happen so strongly, so loud, in so many publications that why wouldn't the government take advantage of using that whole thing as a great manipulation to get whatever they need done? Why wouldn't they? So many people believe it.
Well, here's the thing, how do I put this? Like in Christianity, they talk about how, when the rapture happens, there's going to be all these tens of millions of people that disappear. But, I don't think there's going to be tens of millions of people that disappear.
No. No.
Like that's an assumption, that's an inference based on, if there's 2 billion Christians, and let's say maybe 1% of 2 billion, that's at least 20 million, I think, or at least 200 million right there.
I think the accurate number per year of people that are missing with no explanation, I believe I'm right to say I think it's around 10,000, and there's no news stories or big uproars, so no one would really notice.
What's the word? How many people believe that death is real in Christianity? Less than 1%. Easily less than 1%. And that would just be the start. Just being able to believe that Jesus died. You have to believe that death is real. So, I don't think there's going to be a whole bunch of people disappearing. And people, like, I keep tabs on End Time Ministry and their predictions and their date settings. And, all their dates have failed so far, spectacularly. But at the same time, there might be something to this chronology. 2,000 years from Jesus.
That's what sells lottery tickets.
Pretty much, what's the word? Like, think about this. This economy is primed to explode. And I've been waiting for this economy to explode for a while now. What's the word? Right now, like, the government is paying the banks to hide $1 trillion a day.
Buying bonds.
Anyway, something's got to give. I've been waiting for something that got to give for what, 2, 3, 4 or 5 months.
Hey, it could be just the end of empires fall all the time. It could be the end of this one, and now Dubai will be the next America with the next Coinbase and printing machine. Who knows?
Dubai.
Oh yeah.
Dubai. That's a
place. They even got a place that looks like the White House over there, all primed and ready to go.
I see what you're saying, DB, but one of these days it has to happen. Eventually. Anyhow. But anyway, so what's the word? Right now, we've gone through all the feast days except, how do I put this?
You know what I love?
What?
I'm sorry. Go ahead. No, I was going to say. I was going to say that I don't know what show I was in. Someone was asking about the lake of fire, maybe, and I think Ace is when he made that comment that Paul never talked about all this stuff. I mean, why? If you think about it, as long as you're a part of the body of Christ, man, you're going to be right in line with all this stuff. You're going to be there. You're going to see it all the way through. You're going to figure out what it is. You're going to see all the things that are, handed over to God when God becomes all in all. You're going to be there to usher in the new heavens and new earth. Man, what's it even really? I mean, not that it's bad to look at. I'm just saying that to get troubled about it, and lose any sleep over it, or go on and on with a Christian when they love these topics, man. They matter not, man. It is such a big mouthful, or it is such a big deal to understand that it's all Christ. is so monumental in and of itself, and there's so many solid scriptures where there is no meddling thoughts of what could be, and presumptions and everything objective, or subjective. Nothing subjective. Maybe I'm saying that wrong. But nothing solid. What is the lake of fire? When is the Antichrist coming? Who it is? Who be the countries? Is the shot the mark? I mean, it's all scripted.
What's the word? At the moment, I still don't believe the shot is the mark. Because the mark of the beast is missing one thing: the beast. Where's that dude? If you're gonna have a mark of the beast, surely you should have a beast. As far as I know, I don't see any beasts roaming about yet.
What about Bill Gates?
And that guy's a pussy. He won't count.
Oh,
What about the world system? What about the world system? What about the world system of commerce and manipulation being the beast, and the church riding on the back of it, taking donations and tithes and creating law?
Well, there's, how do I put this? For my reading of the book of Revelation, it seems like the beast has to be an individual dude, who does individual things,
Maybe you have to be a Jew to really understand that book.
Maybe. What's the word? Now they're offering people just pay to $100 to take the shot now.
Wow. Or what helps me too with Revelation? The real title, I believe, is The Unveiling of Jesus Christ.
Yeah. The unveiling.
have you read that, Jeremy? Did you say that
I said that should be that. I believe that's the correct title of Revelation in Greek.
Right.
And yeah, I am familiar with that book and that author.
Oh man. What's the word? Ace, did you post my letter on your website?
Not yet.
All right, I need to add a post. I need to add some things to it. I need to add a disclaimer to it. So don't do it until I send you another one.
Okay.
All right. Anyhow.
And Ace, I changed my mind about all the pictures, especially the nudes. Go ahead and send those back to me. I don't want you posting any of those. I changed my mind. It's not profitable.
You're funny.
Well, they weren't of me, so.
But anyhow, so what's the word? How do I put this? Like in the Christian prophecy community, there's this big debate about calendars and whether the Jews have the real correct calendar or not. Because according to the prophecy community, a lot of these guys believe that the rapture has to happen on a feast day, right? And there's only 3 feast days in the Bible. And And so you celebrate the feast day based on the calendar, right? But if you have the wrong calendar, then you're not celebrating on the correct day. And some people are, how to put this? The calendar, From what I've seen, they all shift the calendar further, at least a month. Some, at least a month and a half. So, depending on who you ask in this community, you'll see, guys saying, that the 9th of Av already passed. The 9th of Av, according to the Jewish calendar, passed, a few days ago. But according to the prophecy community, the 9th of Av is still in play if you shift the calendar 1 month ahead. Because in the Jewish community, they have 2 months. They have Adar 1 and they have Adar 2. And in the Bible, there's no Adar 2. It's an extra month they add to the Bible. So, if the Bible doesn't mention Adar 2, is Adar 2 part part of the timeline, for the feast days? And some of the guys say yes, and the guys say no. And if you say no, well, you have to wait till the spring equinox or some date in order to reset the calendar, and that gives you a whole another month. Because we'll sort months are based on the moon. A month, based on the cycle of the moon, and you start your months based on a new cycle of the moon. Adar 2, you basically add a month into the calendar in order to make everything square with the solar year. But if there's no Adar 2 in God's calendar, well then you would have to wait till the spring equinox or something like that. Anyway, so what's the word? So the 9th of Av could still be in play this month, somewhere in the middle of August, I believe. If There's no Adar 2, and then if you add a month, if the Jewish calendar is off a month, then we could have the Feast of Trumpets off by a month, and Feast of Trumpets, that would be the last possible feast day for the rapture. So let me look. Feast of Trumpets 2021. All right. So according to what I'm reading here, according to the Jews who use Adar 2, so September 7th to September 8th is the Feast of Trumpets. Now, if the Jews are off a month, then you have to add a whole another month onto that. So it'll be somewhere in the middle of October when the real Feast of Trumpets happens. Anyhow, whatever, Jeremy. Whatever. Anyhow. So, yeah. We could be out of here by September or October. Depends on the calendars, and the correct keeping of time. But think about that. If we're out of here by, let's say, September or October, well, you only have a few months, 2-3 months, and maybe even sooner. Maybe we get out of here 9th of Av, or the real 9th of Av. The Jewish 9th of Av already passed. The real 9th of Av, well, the supposedly correct without Adar 2 9th of Av is in the middle of August. So what happened to 9th of Av? And the 9th of Av, the first temple was destroyed.
Are you talking about now the snatching away could be this August?
Yes.
I really hope you're right. I hope in that too. I really do. I've heard what the argument or the presentation, and I love what I don't know all these things, and so it's really neat, because I think we are supposed to hope for this, especially when things are bad.
Yeah. But anyway, so if we added an extra month, the 9th of Av will be somewhere in the middle of August. And what happened in 9th of Av, on 9th of Av, the first temple was destroyed. The second temple was destroyed. I believe the spies came back with a bad report on the 9th of Av, which caused the Israelites to be cursed. What else? Also, I believe Noah sent out the dove and the raven on the 9th of Av. Yeah. So now think about this: if the first and second temple were destroyed on the 9th of Av, and if we are the temple at the present moment, that's okay, Arvicus. That's okay. Don't worry about it, Arvicus. Oh man. So if the first and second temple were destroyed, and if we are the temple of God, then when we are being snatched away, count as like a destruction of the third temple, in a sense, which leads to the third temple being set up in Jerusalem. Just a thought. Also we have the Feast of Trumpets, which could be in September if the Jews are correct, to a month later in October, earlier to mid-October. Now, if November happens, I would assume, well, all right, it's not this year. And guess I have to wait till 2033. Minus 7 years, 2026. Man, that's a long wait. That's another 5 years waiting. And yeah.
No, I like it. I like it, and really, that was a private comment. That was just a little tongue in cheek, but really, I said that to you because I was sitting here thinking, man, I've heard you so many times, and I love how you break all these things down, and you can tell you're well studied in it. So the confidence that's exuded in your tone and everything makes me feel like you really, know what you're talking about. Because I do hope that way too. But I remember sitting in a room one time when I was in a Train the Trainer, and you're so well spoken. But when I started hearing you say that as you're trying to remember these Hebrew and Greek words, I just thought I would fun you like that, just so you would be aware, because it was funny.
All right.
What?
So think about this: if the pre-tribulation rapture is true, assuming that is the case, right? And if we're supposed to be out of here, we got the 7 years, assuming 7-year tribulation is true. Assume both these things are true. All right, we should see the world going to shit rapidly. And what do we see? We see the world going to shit rapidly as we speak. Our president has dementia. What's the word? I remember, just the other day, the president, walked out and looked at the reporters and talked about how someone just wiped his ass, right? And people took it as a joke. But what if he wasn't joking, right? What if that is the state of the United States of America right now? We have a man who's so demented that he likes to talk about people wiping his ass. We should see the economy going to shit. And it's
Did
going
he
to
talk
shit.
about that?
He did. Right.
Well, the kings and the queens used to have like a big prize position where the lady or the man would go through the king or queen's stool and tell them how they need to start eating different things.
I guess, whatever. Anyway.
No, really, that was the position that people, it was a very, if you got that position, there was nowhere closer, of a general labor spot to the king or queen.
What's the word?
Look it up. I'm serious. What's the word?
In the 1930s, there was a pretty famous commentator on the order of Mark Twain. His name was H.L. Mencken. And he said, pretty soon the people will vote and get the president that they want good and hard. He was not a fan of democracy itself. And then Dostoevsky said, tolerance will reach such a level that intelligent people will be banned from thinking so as not to offend the imbeciles.
Oh, man.
Groom of the stool.
Yeah, groom of the stool, yeah.
Groom of the stool. That was the position. I wasn't BSing you.
Yeah. What's the word? Just looking at the world today, it's getting sicker. Was it as bad as it is today as it was 6 months ago? No. All right. Well, maybe, COVID.
Well, the division is now the dividing comes. That's what is that's what's been expediting. So now there's a clear line that's been drawn between citizens A and citizens B.
Yes. I remember I saw this conspiracy theory, not conspiracy theory, but it was a tongue-in-cheek joke, but at the same time you could tell the guy was kind of serious. What's the word? How the new strain is called Delta, right? Delta. Think about that. Delta. A pyramid. They're hiding it in plain sight. Anyhow, what's the word? Like the Illuminati symbolism. You got the pyramid.
The eye, the closed eye, hand over the eye.
Yes,
the butterflies.
Shauna, yes, that's exactly what we're talking about.
Pedophile rings.
But anyway, think about that. The new strain is called Delta, right? A pyramid. It's all in your face.
Huh.
Oh, anyhow. We'll see. I could be wrong. The Christians could, can be wrong.
But it's cool, though, because we all remember that God put all of this in place. I mean, he handpicked every person for each role. Each one of those people doing that propaganda, they're not fooling anyone. They think they're doing it. but God is really doing it. It's a part of the plan. That's
Oh,
the
man.
big joke on
But
everyone.
what if COVID is misdirection? You know, like a fake mark of the beast to get people to take the real mark of the beast. Yeah. Just think about it. Because here's the thing, I always thought the mark of the beast would be something religious. You know, something a bit more than a vaccine.
What's your thoughts, Ace, on all this COVID stuff? 'Cause it seems like it is a big topic of the day, at least in the
Okay,
world.
well, obviously, God made a mistake in creating Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden before he made Pfizer. He should have made Pfizer first. How in the hell did we get along 5,000 years of recorded history without Pfizer and Moderna?
We just died. That's a secret. We just died in mass until some of us survived.
So that's my comment. How did we ever get along without Pfizer and Moderna? And as a secondary thought, can anybody think of any corporation alive who has been sued more than Pfizer, Moderna, Johnson and Johnson for outright killing people? These pharmaceutical companies they're immune from their bad
That's what
behavior.
I was going to say. They've been sued so many times that they actually legislated and had laws put in place that put caps on the payouts.
Not only that, now they made it so, what's the word, that now the government has to pay out all the payouts in the vaccine court. You know,
What a
so
deal.
they paid nothing. You know, you
What
have to
a
go to the
deal.
vaccine. What's the word? Go say again.
I said, what a deal.
Exactly.
deal.
What a deal. What a deal. Privatized profits, socialized costs.
So here is that H.L. Mencken quote. Democracy is the theory that the common people know what they want and deserve to get it good and hard. So there.
And that's, you know, 'cause it does look like that, Shauna. You know, that we won't not be able to buy or sell without the passport. And you know that it seems that's what it's heading towards.
It seems like I'm going to make a lot of money in the passport printing business.
Oh man.
Totally joking, of course, because of course we know everyone's listening.
Oh yes, totally. A joke. Yes.
This is just for entertainment purposes.
This is pure. This entire stream has been pure satire.
The host of the show does not necessarily agree with the views and opinions of the random guests.
Oh yeah. Let's talk
And cannot
about
be held
I'm
liable.
out of control.
So anyway, you know what's the word? You know how those leaks came out from the Pentagon, and basically the Pentagon had to release a report on saying, well, there are UFOs in the sky, but we don't really know what it is.
Amazing, huh?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I was so pissed off when that report came out. Like I was so hyped. You know, finally they're going to have to say something, and they said absolutely nothing in the report. Yeah. I was hoping for full disclosure by then. Yeah, but anyhow.
Who knows? We're all here told certain. We're told, you know, we all have limited scope, and we have a culture, we have newspapers, and pretty much we're limited on our breadth of view. You know, can't really do much about it at times, and the amount of time required to gather the information, the correct information. My God, you know, I'm already 50. I'm like, screw this. It's already been scripted. I'm not doing that anymore.
So I'll contribute something to this big idea. I am not fond of the book of Revelation. And it seems to me that it's lots of figures of speech and pictures and analogies and metaphors. And also, it seems to me from my observation of history that even this mark of the beast thing is not terribly clever and original with John, who wrote the book of Revelation, because this mark of the beast thing has been going on for thousands of years in a form and a way to the point where the Roman government, when they were collecting taxes and they were broke, they would take the silver coins and melt them down and mix it with a bunch of crap metal and then reissue the coins.
Yeah.
And people got to know that the coins were bullshit. You know, the new coins were bullshit. And so the people of Rome would take the real silver coins that were still in circulation and they would
Gotcha.
read the edges. They would read the edges, you know, so that they could spot a real silver coin easily in commerce, right?
Isn't that why our coins have those edges on them now, supposedly?
Right. Our so-called silver coins have those reeded edges because it's a design tradition that we inherited from the old Roman Empire. Well, our current silver coins are crap now too. They hardly have any silver in them. They're mostly copper and a bunch of other junk metal. But anyway, so yeah, and so the reeded edges are just a design tradition. It doesn't mean anything anymore. But at the time, the Roman government did issue a mark of the beast kind of law that said you must take Roman coins or death, right? And they put these laws inscribed in metal, concrete, and stuck them in the wall so they couldn't be removed. So everybody knew what the law was. And that was a kind of mark of the beast at the time. You must take our coins or you cannot buy and sell. And if you get caught taking real silver coins for your goods and services, off with your head. Anyway, so with that thought in mind, that governments always want to tell who can buy and who can sell, and have been doing this for thousands of years, I don't see that John in the book of Revelation was very clever or original. He was just taking stuff out of popular culture and putting a little spin on it to make his...
Ace, I gotta disagree.
Okay, fine.
You know, what's the word? What's the word in Psalms? It says, the words of God are tried 7 times.
That's right.
If it's in the Bible, if it's in the Bible, you know, that those words were explicitly picked by God, handpicked by God, in order to communicate what He wanted to say.
I can see, but wait now. I know you. I know you can. I see how you can disagree with what he just said as far as that being applicable to what's happening now. But for sure, you can see that what he said is certainly applicable, that they did have indeed their own mark of the beast. And really, all currency is a form of man's control and mark of control to control money, which is what all sin, you know, the root of it is.
Even getting a business license is kind of a mark of the beast. You can't be in business without a business license.
Right.
So, I'm bringing this aspect up, this little side thought, and I agree with you, Alan. The Word of God is tried 7 times, purified 7 times, and I just don't care for the book of Revelation, because you can create so much havoc out of the book of Revelation because it has so many metaphors and pictures and stuff that we don't know what to do with, because it's not a clear instruction. You know, but hang on, I'll finish up here. So there are a lot of people who are worried. Oh my God, what do I do? I'm worried about my children going through the tribulation. I'm worried about myself. Oh, what happens if I take the mark of the beast? You know, there's so many confusing thoughts that come out of this argument about the book of Revelation. I want to tell you, John wasn't that clever. There have been mark of the beast and tribulations all through history. Maybe we'll go through another one that's just really, you know, gut-wrenching. So what? The humanity has been through many tribulations before, to the point where huge numbers of humans have died off. And there's been bloodshed by all governments who said you cannot buy or sell unless you do what we say. I mean, look at how the Yankees treated the South. It was a total fucking bloodbath. They even had letters from the government in Washington, D.C. authorizing the rape of Southern women, black or white. Treat them like whores is what it said. And so, yeah, the book of Revelation looks scary, but, you know, it's life and death is the real problem. And when you're dead by a government agent who says you can't buy or sell without the mark of the beast, it's the same death as, you know, stumbling in front of a bus. It's just death, okay? So it's not any worse of a death. It's just death. Go ahead.
Well, here's the thing, you know, hindsight is 2020. Once the book happens, then it'll be kind of obvious what everything means, you know. Well, sword. You know, you're right. You know, we don't really know what it means until it happens to an extent. But anyhow.
So imagine you're a Christian in Nazi Germany, and they say, oh, look, imagine you're a Jew in Nazi. You can't buy or sell without wearing the star. Now you can't buy or sell at all. I mean, it's just this type of thing goes on. And we can say for sure that John, the Revelator, you know, he captured a pinnacle of the whole damn picture. You know, can't be any more scary than the book of Revelation. But death is death. Okay, so you're going to die of old age, you're going to die a quick death, or a slow death, or a government-sponsored death, or an accidental death. Yeah, death is still death.
And then, like Alan, just if you mind me asking, how old are you? I'm 50.
I'm 28.
And then Ace, how old are you again? If you mind me asking.
I'm almost 70.
All right, so that's what I thought. So Alan, I can assure you that it's not a downplay. Like I don't know enough about Revelations. I'll admit that. I need to read a lot more to comprehend that. That is totally on me. I have no excuse. But here's the other thing too, is I don't know enough or near about those 13 letters that I need to get to where I can walk in this, you know, transient peace and love and, you know, and dealing just with the day-to-day things of my life. And I know you're thinking, okay. But then when I hear somebody, like, since I've believed, it's taken all this shit to get to this level to where you're like, oh, wow, this is valuable, the time you're spending. I want to know more about this. And so then when I hear Ace with this opinion and this idea of like, wow, Paul never even got into the book of Revelation. Maybe it wasn't even written. I can't remember, but it wasn't.
Revelation came, I think, 50 years after Paul was murdered by the Romans.
Okay, but still Paul was left alone in the end. And Paul did say that he shunned not, and he had the whole counsel of God that he preached. He left nothing out. Everything
right,
and Paul,
to know. And Paul said that he completed the Word of God. And I don't see that the book of Revelation is a completion of the Word of God. I see more completeness in Paul's letters and a lot of insufficiencies in the book of Revelation.
Now, indeed, it's good to know these things if indeed some of these things are happening, and this is, you know, what they've said here and there. No doubt, it's good to be prepared, know how to plant food, know how to, you know, be self-sufficient. Absolutely. But I'm saying if there was 2 books and I could only choose like the 13 letters of Paul to really spend all my time and the rest of my life trying to comprehend, and will that benefit me every day compared to what it would take for me to really, I think, understand just from a simple fleshly book reading exercise of Revelation, just to get that foundation before I got into any more spiritual, you know, understanding. Maybe the way Zender reads through that and everything, and it's that simple, and, you know, but that's still a lot of time. And if I definitely would watch it and have watched those when I felt like I was needing, I had to know that, but then I got to thinking, well, why do I such a big chance I'm wrong, and it's, I don't know. Does that make sense?
Jeremy, I have said in the past that, and depending the concordant literal New Testament, I have said that you don't really need the concordant literal New Testament. You can actually get this message from the King James. You just have to ignore certain parts, or at least marginalize certain parts, and exalt in other parts. And I would say the same thing about Revelation. If you did not have Paul's 13 letters, you could still find many wonderful things out of the book of Revelation, like Jesus is the Alpha and Omega. Holy smoke, what does that mean? That covers everything. Oh God, he's the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world. Wow, what does that mean? So you can find a lot of treasures there that go beyond the 7 Baals and the 7 trumpets and the 7 vials of trouble that's poured out and the 4 horsemen.
Sure.
There's some beautiful stuff in the book of Revelation, but it's just couched with nasty metaphors that surround it, and so you would just have to be picky about what you gloat over.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm certainly not an expert.
In that verse that says he is the Alpha and Omega, it also says that Christ is God's creative original. Whoa, what is that? God's creative original. Okay. If for no other reason, I'd say the book of Revelation is God's word, just for that one verse there. Yeah. Jesus is God's creative original.
What is that? Something that could never be created again, I guess, huh? Only one of a kind? One of a kind and the first. Mm-hmm. I'm not really sure what it means. It has... It's not in... Is he the first thing physical ever created? And everything else, is energy, spirit. He can't be limited to physical. He's everywhere. I don't know. It's a big phrase.
Well, Jeremy, I would say this. He was the first, from what I understand, first God made, or God begot, God begot Jesus. And then from Jesus makes everything else. So God handed over the power of creation to his son? That's that's my interpretation of the Bible at this moment. Yes, that's my understanding of the scriptures at the moment. Yes.
Who's talking right now?
Gangsta.
Is this Alan still?
Yeah.
Okay, I was making sure. Yeah, that's cool.
All right.
It's very cool.
Yeah, you just brought up Jesus being omnipresent. I'm not too.
Not Jesus. I'm not Jesus. I'm saying God, his Father, is omnipresent. He's not going to be limited to a body. Who would want to be if you're everywhere? An energy and that what holds life itself together, whether physical or celestial. I'm just saying that. Yeah.
Okay. I got something for Shona. Is that the right way to say that? Some gal named Hall. Who the hell knows who she is? Anyway, so if we're not allowed to buy or sell, I'm saying that this not allowed to buy or sell is real common in humanity, in our human experience. You can see it in the Soviet Union. You can see it in the Roman Empire, when you couldn't buy or sell unless you used their coinage. And in the Soviet Union, you couldn't buy or sell unless you had the approval of the Soviet apparatchiks, right? But in every case throughout history, the total economy collapses from this government-issued edict that you cannot buy or sell unless you jump through our hoops, right? And in every case, the black market is what saves everyone. So in the Soviet Union, even the Even the political leaders, the apparatchiks, were participating in the black market if they actually wanted anything, because according to Soviet government law, you cannot buy or sell unless you obey us and do what we tell you to do. But it turned into such a nightmare because the government issued a law to the makers of shoes. They issued a law: you must make 30,000 pair of shoes this year. Okay, so they made 30,000 pair of shoes, but they were all size 10. So when the government steps in, they always give you orders, but they don't know what is going on in the world, and that they can't decide anything in the if you study economics, there's this idea that the free market is I shouldn't say the free market. That price discovery is the greatest computer brain ever invented in the world. Price discovery. Okay, so.
But Ace, you're forgetting. Today we have computers. Today we have all the information available in real time.
No, we don't.
Not
price discovery. Price discovery is its own computer. Okay, so with the shoemaker discovers that there is a shortage of shoestrings, he has to decide that he's going to make shoes that don't need strings, right? So price discovery is a feeding of information, and it's done maybe with computers, but not necessarily with computers. It's a discovery monster all of its own. And because you discover the price in a free market, you can decide to make this many pair of shoes or that many pair of boots, or this many red pair of shoes because this red leather is cheaper this year. Price discovery allows you to make decisions. And when governments give you orders, boss you around and tell you you must make 10,000 shoes, well, you might make 10,000 left shoes, but no right shoes. And they had that kind of problem going on in the Soviet Union. So, Sean, I'm telling you that, yeah, they might come along and say nobody can buy or sell unless they get the vaccine. Screw them. There's going to be plenty of people who don't get the vaccine. There's going to be a big black market economy. And someone named Jeremy might be selling vaccination papers in the black market.
I would hope my family is leveraged in the opportunist position to take advantage of this healthy black market culture that is sure to develop all around us.
Yeah,
and
it is.
Of organically being a part of it, have some forethought. Start saving some coffee and some Jack Daniels.
The black market actually saves every culture that devolves into a bossy government telling you who you can buy or sell, who can buy and sell, and what you can buy and sell. There's even an old story out of history of this pirate ships that came and surrounded, parked outside of this, a Spanish town that was backed up against a mountain, and they were keeping any goods from coming into the Spanish town because the mountain was so high. And some boys participated in the black market, and they would sneak up and down the mountain to go get goods and bring them back into the city, but they would charge an exorbitant price because it was black market activity. They had to cover their cost of the danger of climbing the mountain and coming back and bringing goods back. And so the town was actually surviving longer because of the black market stuff that was going on, except for one small problem. The people of the town bitched that the prices were so high that the king of the town passed a law that nobody could raise prices anymore, that these exorbitant prices were against the law. So all the black marketeers said, screw this, I'm not going across the mountains. So they had to surrender to the pirates who were waiting out in the harbor for them. So when you destroy buying and selling in a free market kind of way, you're going to destroy the whole damn economy. So if everybody has to get this shot and the shot doesn't look very good, there's plenty of concerns about side effects and more side effects and unusual side effects. People will.
The concern of side effects that will happen, 20, 30 years from now. But go on.
Right. We don't know what the side effects are, because we're not allowed to know. We're just catching it on the fly from forbidden doctors and forbidden news sites and courageous people who turn whistleblower and I don't care if you get the shot or not. If you do get the shot, if they tell you can't buy or sell, some people will get the shot, some people won't, but the economy will operate for a while out of the black market until they catch those guys, and then everybody will starve because from my observation, the people who fall in line and get the shot so willingly, they're not that clever. They're just employees who show up late, go home early, demand a long lunch break, and they've got a guaranteed position because of the labor union. You're going to destroy entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs don't put up with that crap. They weigh out the cost of production and the risk to themselves, and they don't work for free, not for very long anyway. So you're not allowed to buy or sell. This is going to hurt everybody.
Well, I guess I'll see you guys in the concentration camps.
The black market even operates in the concentration camps. You're not supposed to be able to buy or sell drugs, but they buy and sell drugs in the prison camps all the time. So how do you destroy the black market? It's impossible. The black market is a great brain that even our modern day computers can't stop. Sorry to prattle on about these things, but we all worry when we look over the fence at politics, economics, and strange behaviors of fellow humans, and we worry, how are we going to put up with this? Well, we figure out a way to do it.
We will survive. Hopefully, we will survive, and hopefully get raptured out of here. So on a technical level, we won't have to survive to be immortal. Dude, what's the word? All my life, I have been poor. I can't wait. What's the word? If I'm in heaven, I'll finally be rich. Like how do I put this? Like my refrigerator broke a couple months ago, and for months I was out without cold water and ice. I was fighting the insurance company for the refrigerator to get me a new one, and finally they relented, and they got me a new fridge. And now I appreciate so much cold water and cold ice. What's the word?
So if anybody's poor out there, like you just said you were, Scott, then I have a prophecy. You're going to go from beans to beans. Okay. Not much will change.
Oh, man. Well, it's 1:58. Somehow we managed to make this last 2 hours.
Lord have mercy. Yes, sir. So it's a wonder that we've all reached this far without Pfizer's input so far. God bless Pfizer.
So let's see. According to this webpage, the Jewish Feast of Trumpets is in 38 days. So if you had a month to the 38 days, we'd be like 70 days max. Just think about that. Either around 40 days or 70 days, and we'll be out of here. Hopefully,
you're looking to exit stage right.
Pretty much. I have nothing.
You don't want that shot, do you? You don't want that shot, do you?
Well, it's not that. Just that. I'm. What's the word? I'm broke. I'm unemployed. What's the word? I have nothing here for me. You guys.
And there's a big advantage. There's a huge advantage, to you. Do you understand that you're going to be in such a better spot than somebody that is in a $300,000 home making house payments and then paying another $800 a month on a lavish, BMW or Mercedes, and everything's propped up. They're just paycheck to paycheck. And when this thing hits, I would rather be you. You're used to it.
Well, I've been used to it for like at least 10 years now.
You're a pro. You're going to have no problems whatsoever. You guys start negotiating cigarettes and everything else and keeping things you'd never use and bartering with it.
This guy here, I don't know who he is. He mentions the Suspicious Observers YouTube. That is a fun channel. This is Suspicious Observers channel. He's all about watching the sun and reporting on its activity every day. There have been times when I'd go there every morning, and it's like really getting in touch with what's going on in the world, because he's looking at the sun and sun activity and making speculations based on what the sun is doing. What does ATM mean?
At the moment.
Oh, at the moment.
Yeah, it's a cash machine. You put your credit card in and get cash out.
At the moment.
Okay, so it's daily news about the sun, and activity is getting wild at the moment. Well, worth a sub and daily 5-minute updates. It's really a fun channel, and I'd recommend it. Thanks for bringing this up, brother or sister, whatever you is.
Hey, it isn't coincidence, though. Someone did tell me something, and I've studied a little bit of it, but I do just empirical evidence, if you're aware. Notice whenever it's overcast, it always seems like it's always overcast and hazy patch of clouds following the sun, and the rest of the sky is all blue. It is kind of an interesting thing to start noticing. It's pretty amazing.
I had a thought and now I lost it.
So Scott, this guy, Suspicious Observer, he's a studious fellow about the sun. I don't know where I think he checks on half a dozen or more websites, just and logs into what they record as to what the sun is doing, and he has his own interpretation about if the sun does this, then we're going to see earthquakes, or if the sun does that, we're going to see political changes. I don't know exactly what he's on about or how he interprets it, but it's fun to watch it. So I don't know that he's absolutely right, but he seems to be on the ball regarding some things. Oh, here's an answer. NASA and other scientific websites. Okay, that's what he does.
Could possibly help you with your stock investing efforts. Just saying.
Maybe. Are you in the market?
No, not now.
Of course. It's always the guys not in the market that give out advice. Anyhow, neither am I in the market, though. I have no money to invest.
It's always the guys that aren't in the market that bitch and complain about bad advice.
I guess.
Just kidding. No, I did. I lost some money on a couple things that were going on. I think if you're going to do that, you should study, because you can educate yourself on how to do it with minimal risk.
Yeah, there are some guys who are so very good at the stock market game.
We bought GameStop when it was $7-8.
Yeah.
And then bought a bunch more when it got to like 40 or 50.
Mm-hmm.
And then freaked out when it started dropping, instead of holding tight and being educated and everything, and then sold a couple $1,000 worth and lost a little bit. But then like a month later or 3 weeks later, it shot up to like $800, I believe, $700.
Huh.
It was it was the first known hedge fund insider trading exposure, where this guy rallied a bunch of public, public traders, regular Joes, and they started buying up the stock and holding it because it was so overly shorted and exposed a bunch of corruption too. You make a movie about it, supposedly. But anyways,
They tried doing the same with silver, but they failed.
yeah, I bought silver when it was like 17 something way back when I lived in Georgia. And yeah, if you just would have held it, what is it right now? $24 or something?
It should be more, but the banks are shorting it heavily to lower the price.
So what do they got it at now though? Like what's it holding at normally? $24 or something, 23? Something like that. Anyways, it basically the same amount of gold back then in Rome, you could buy a loaf of bread with the same amount now you could. You know, it kind of holds its value with this fake currency throughout the long run. Precious metals, tobacco, medicine.
Right now it's 23.23.
Yeah.
Such a deal. Along about 1994, gold was about hovering around 200, 250 an ounce. And I was a young man at the time, and my father-in-law was an old-time investor. And I said, what do you think about gold? And he said, that damn gold, that just keeps going down and down. I wouldn't touch it. And I look back now with the so-called wisdom I have now, and I go, I should have told him, or he should have told me, you're supposed to buy things when they're on sale. And gold was on sale at $200 an ounce. He didn't tell me that, and I didn't know to think that way. He was just so worried because it kept going down and down. How low can it go? Either way, it was on sale. No, gold is about 2,000 now.
No, I mean back then, didn't it bounce up like to 4, like a big jump too back then?
I don't remember, but it obviously has gone up from 200 to 2,000. So.
Oh yeah.
But it's hard in that community to stick to your guns and buy things when they're on sale, because it's easy to think that way when you're over at the thrift store or at the grocery store to buy things on sale. But when you're in the stock market, you just don't think that way.
And so would you say that if you think back when at the time that you bought that for $200 and you look at everything else you would buy and your rent and your utilities, would you say that $200 would approximately equal about 2,000 today?
What year was that, Ace? What year was that?
Long about 1994.
1994?
Mm-hmm.
Not too awful.
Right.
Maybe 92.
30 years. 30 years?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's about right. If you look at the inflation and the way the money.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
All
it's
right,
about
so
right.
$200. So $200 in 1992.
Uh-huh.
All right, that's 387 today.
No way. See, that's ridiculous.
Say what
You can
again?
tell-
All right, $200 in 1992 is $387 today.
That is not true. Inflation is way out of control.
Oh my God.
Way
They
beyond
would
that.
want you to believe that. They would want you to believe that to believe the American dream. Where are they getting that from? Can't buy
Oh,
value mail for under $10 now. My God, it used to be $3.
Well, that's what the inflation calculator is telling me.
Well, that inflation calculator is rigged.
You know the Rothschilds own that calculator. When
I was a kid in 1963, the minimum wage was about 50 cents an hour, and you could go to McDonald's for 50 cents and load up on 2 hamburgers, French fries, and a Coke for 50
What was
cents.
that year? What was that year?
63 or so, 1963, 64. A hamburger and a Coke was like 15 cents.
Okay, 50 cents in 1963 is worth 4.44 today.
It's not true. A hamburger at
What?
McDonald's now is over $7 or 10, close to $10.
Whoa. Are we talking, which hamburger are we talking about?
You go to McDonald's today,
The Big Mac. No.
you're not going to get much for $4.
Well, I go there all the time. I get the $3 bundle for $3.
Aren't you lucky?
You know, you get
Man.
the
Dude, you
You get-
can't be eating that food, man. Don't you know that the meat in one hamburger comes from 50,000 cows? They had to disclose that. They
well,
mix.
you know, if I'm right about the timing of the rapture, you know, this body's going to shit anyway, so might as
Oh
well.
my God. It jacks with your mind too, the way you feel. It really does.
It does. I had to take some Tylenol. You know, I was having a splitting headache all day.
Well, you better knock it off as far as,
but
those
anyway.
hamburgers.
You know, because you said 1963. Well, I don't think the Big Mac was even invented in 1963.
No, I
Well-
was kidding. I was kidding about the Big Mac. Totally. That was for Ace. It was a burger and a bun and a piece of cheese,
Hmm.
lettuce and tomato.
Anyway,
It's called a hamburger.
So if, as far as inflation is concerned, the minimum wage was about 50 cents, maybe 75 cents at that time. Because in 69, I got my first job and it was 75 cents an hour. And you could get pretty decent meal for 75 cents at McDonald's. And now
All
the
right.
minimum wage is $7 an hour. And so it still costs $7 to get a decent meal. So
It's
nothing has really
15
changed.
an hour here.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, and a value meal here in California is about $11-12
Hmm.
for like a quarter pounder with cheese.
So there's nothing has changed. It's just the numbers on a piece of paper.
all right. So, well, anyway, let's talk about this. You know that verse in Thessalonians, the last trump, right? You know,
What about it?
All right. Well, you know, Feast of Trumpets, they're doing, I believe, trumpets for like 10 days straight. You know, and at the end of the Feast of Trumpets, they blow. You know, at the end of the feast, you blow the last trump. Yeah.
Mhm.
Consider it, mate. You know, because think about this. How do I put this? This streaming thing. You're like the first guy in the body of Christ to do this on a daily basis.
Oh.
Is that a coincidence? You know, maybe God's introducing us to each other. You know, at the last second.
Hmm.
Yeah, because what's the word? For the longest time, the closest thing we had to daily fellowship was like Martin's videos.
Hmm.
You know, and now we're streaming every day, twice a day.
Yeah, it is
Yeah.
kind of funny.
You know, right at the last second. You know,
We've mentioned
30,
it. We've mentioned it at the dinner table. How it's funny how we're all like, you know, we hit see that little bell notification. It was like, hey, Brother Drew will be there. Brother Gray, maybe Alan will show up. And you know, you got lunchtime coming, and you jump in. It's pretty fun, and it's always you learn something incredible every time.
Yeah.
Old dudes rule, baby.
Yeah.
Something is definitely going on, but it's more evil than the sun. If NASA wants people to believe it's a sun, then it's not the sun. Just my opinion. Thank you for your most excellent opinion, Scott. I love your excellent opinions.
Yeah, I think I'm down with Scott. I think it's all a big scam for money
Well,
in
and
Hollywood
I'm just
production.
making a joke. So you guys capture this phrase. Thank you for your most excellent opinion. And you can say that to anybody that, tries to bust your chops on various things. It just sounds so complimentary. Thank you for your most excellent opinion. But you can secretly know you're being sarcastic.
Yeah, but think about this. Daily fellowship amongst the body of Christ. That's extremely rare, right? It's only happening now. For what reason? For what cause? Something's up. God wouldn't be doing this if we didn't have a reason. I swear, I've been watching Martin's videos for years or something like this. Yeah.
I've seen you make comments in Martin's videos, and I thought, man, this guy has more to say than meets the eye. So
Yeah. I've seen him bust my chops a couple times.
over what?
I'll say something and he'll disagree and he'll make a whole video dedicated to why I'm wrong.
Have I ever disagreed with you?
Not that I know of.
Yeah, because my opinion is most excellent. I have an excellent opinion.
We definitely all have different roles. That is for sure. We're all different and unique. It's really neat.
Okay, I got to get out of here.
All right. Bye.
All right, guys. We'll see you.
Thank you, Jeremy and Alan, Shauna, Anthony, I'm me. I am me. Okay, I am me. Arbicus, Tony, Scott. Scott. That's what I always say. Did I miss anybody?
Scott. Love your video, Scott. I love that 5 Reasons Why. It's great. I watched it when I snuck off and got a McDonald's value meal.
Don't tell nobody.
Yeah, don't tell anyone. Shouldn't do that. It was, but I saw that they had a quarter pounder with cheese. You could choose option A, B, or C. Incredible. Grace and peace to you.
You too.
I'm out of here.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye, all.